This is Perspectivas Latinas, a community service of CAN TV. I'm your host, Juan Carlos Hernandez. Little Village is one of the most densely populated and bustling neighborhoods in the city. Its commercial heart, which runs along 26th Street, pulses with life and culture. But the neighborhood faces challenges along with all its energy and restlessness. Here to talk about how they serve the community, we have Katia Nuquez from the organization Enlace. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start off by talking about you briefly and how you came to work at Enlace.
Okay. I came to Enlace in 2005. I had studied international and community development, and I had been working in international development for a few years. So
Where did you work?
I was in Peru. I was placed in Peru, but I did a lot of traveling according, to the needs during that time. And after a few years in international development, I thought, well, either I spend the rest of my life traveling or I settle down in a city and I really get connected and working in community development. So that's when I decided, I started looking for jobs, and I had an opportunity with Enlace Chicago and decided to come to Chicago.
Wow. So it's almost like you were a missionary in some sense. Did it feel like that at times?
I don't like the word, but maybe the concept behind it.
Well, certainly not like you were trying to impose anything on anyone, but certainly helping people. What did you do in Peru? I'm curious now. Just a bit. Tell me about what you did in Ecuador too, or.
I am from Ecuador, but I was stationed in Peru. I worked for the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, which is an agency similar to Catholic Charities or CARE or any of these international development agencies that work with different areas of development in our countries. In Peru specifically, we worked in agricultural development, education, microenterprise, etc. And I was basically the project coordinator. I was in charge of grant writing and developing collaborations with multilateral and bilateral agencies there.
Wow. So after Peru, you come north to Chicago, and you've been at Enlace since 2005. Tell me about, well, before we get to talking about Enlace, let's talk about Little Village. It's probably one of the most, at least I think by the mainstream of Chicago, it's probably one of the most well-known neighborhoods in a sense by the fact that people know about it, but I think it's probably one of the least known at the same time by the mainstream, and I guess in some sense least understood. It's a very vibrant community, but it still has a lot of challenges. Tell me about what you see as its potential and positive in Little Village.
I fell in love with Little Village since I came. I first got connected to the community definitely because I came to work for Enlace. But as soon as I was able to relate to it, I really thought there was a lot of, like you say, vibrancy, potential, a lot of hardworking individuals and families. So we see our community as really like with an asset-based type of perspective. It's a very young community, as you said, very densely populated. We have about 80,000 individuals living there according to the census. We know it's higher.
Higher. Why is it higher?
The number of undocumented people and families that live in Little Village is estimated in between 20-30%. A lot of families that are, that have an undocumented status, they don't want to be, part of the census. So that's why when people ask, sometimes we just throw a number and say about 100,000.
Wow. And how big is Little Village for those 100,000 people? It's a city by itself, really.
It is a city by itself. It's interesting to think that sometimes people talk about Pilsen Little Village, right? They put us in the same category, but in terms of, like you say, where it's at, we kind of geographically divided. It's between Western and Costner, Sister Avenue,
Okay.
and then on this side to Cermak, on that side 32nd Street.
South Cermak or North Cermak, or Cermak
North,
is 22nd, right?
yes, North Cermak.
And then
So,
South 32nd.
mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big area, and it's still for 100,000 people. It's not, there. It's densely populated. How much of these 100,000 people are minors or children?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
40%, approximately 40% of the population is under 18 years of age.
40%.
So extremely young community.
Wow. And also, one thing that I mentioned in the open is the commercial heart of Little Village, which is 26th Street, but that's not the only one. Also, Cermak is pretty busy as well, right?
Pretty busy, though.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of commercial movement, it's definitely 26th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of like an urban myth, but
Mm-hmm.
even the mayor uses this, so I can use it for sure if he does. In terms of tax revenue, 26th Street is supposed to be the second commercial corridor after the Magnificent Mile.
Really?
That's what the mayor says.
But you said it's an urban myth, so but I guess it has some truth to it then. I mean,
It has to have some truth to it. It depends on the analysis they do in terms of tax revenue. And when you go to the community or you
mm-hmm.
live there, like, so you're in constant, like, I guess, contact with businesses and the life of the community itself, you can definitely see that because
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of restaurants that are super busy every day, not only weekends.
Mm-hmm.
You have also specific business that are targeting a Mexican and a Mexican American community.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your businesses that sell pan dulce or
Mm-hmm.
baptism or quinceañera kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it's not only the people who live in Little Village that shop there, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also people that are coming from all over the Midwest, from
Really?
Indiana, from nearby states.
From all over the Midwest.
Yeah.
Really, and I guess how do you know that it's people from all over the Midwest? It's like you take pictures of their license plates, or who?
There are studies that they
Okay.
conduct about these things, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why Little Village is being called the capital of the Midwest. And
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a port of entry for Mexican immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
We work very closely with schools, and we
Mm-hmm.
work with 8,000 people
Mm-hmm.
in terms of our programs and services. So we have a pretty good idea of the audience.
Okay, you mentioned something, and we kind of touched on it briefly. Enlace works with schools, right? And it has, I guess, an educational philosophy and model that it follows, right, as part of its work. Tell me the kind of work you do in education with schools in the community, but also within Enlace, and how it serves both young. You also work with people that are not of school age anymore, right?
Oh, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
with parents and adults.
Tell me first about your work with schools and with minors and children.
Mm-hmm. So our work in education kind of was propelled or like started with our involvement with the hunger strike that the
Okay.
19 days hunger strike that community residents were a part of, that ultimately resulted in the Little Village Lawndale High School campus.
Mm-hmm.
That's a campus that houses 4 small high schools.
Right.
So the community really demanded the city to build a school for them because they had promised one. 2 were built in the north side, but still nothing in the south side.
Mm-hmm.
So the community really took this as an opportunity to claim for their rights and to raise their voices. So Enlace, back then the Little Village Community Development Corporation, we changed our name, took a big part in supported the community residents, provided the opportunity to meet with the decision makers from the city, from the Chicago Public Schools, etc. So as a result, in 2005, we opened the doors of those new 4 small schools in Little Village. So it was a great opportunity. The agency became involved in education and kind of pushed into that direction, not only because of those families that were demanding a better education, but also because of many factors. We tried to base our programs and initiatives on data and research. So some of the things that the community had, basically it had seen that as a need was need for after school programs, for adult education, for English as a second language, for extra support for children in terms of tutoring and mentoring and other opportunities to explore the sports, the arts, technology, etc. Those were very limited.
They were limited within the schools in Little Village.
Within the schools and in general,
In
it was
general.
very hard back, and I'm talking about 2005, right?
That's not that long ago.
Yeah,
It's really not long ago.
not too long ago, but still significantly, I think, in terms of. So when we look back in 2005, if you were a person that were just coming from Mexico and you needed, opportunities such as English as a second language and these kind of services, it wasn't very easy to find, right?
Right.
Definitely there were opportunities, but not as you find now. So Enlace took this, this opportunity and really like developed something that we believed the community needed. So in terms of creating partnerships, the first partnership that we had was with the Eli Whitney Elementary School, which is located on Komensky. So that school decided to open its doors. It was a very good principal who was there, and we have a new principal who's also great, and they decided to open its doors to the community. It's not easy. The process of creating these relationship that kind of like looks like a marriage, right, between a community organization and a school is not easy, because those are very different cultures. You're working now with a city agency basically, right, because you work as a part of CPS, as a part of the district, and the school is run as a as a part of the city. And then you have a CBO or community-based organization with very different culture. However, this partnership really leveraged an enormous amount of resources throughout the years. It's been millions and millions of dollars in terms of the resources that have been brought back to the school community. So we started with that partnership in 2004, actually expanded to Castellanos Elementary School in that same year. So after these many years, now we're partners with 8 schools in the community.
8 schools.
8 schools.
8
4
public
of them,
schools.
8 public schools, yes. 4 of them are the 4 small schools located in the high school campus. And then we have 5 other partners: Madero Middle School, Eli Whitney Elementary, Castellanos, and Farragut Career Academy. So many of the things that we do in terms of our partnership have to do with after-school programs for youth, which includes academic specifics such as tutoring, homework help, etc. But we also offer opportunities to explore things that are probably not as prevalent in Chicago public schools when you don't have enough funds, such as music, sports, arts, technology, etc.
So you help find the funding for some of that?
For sure, yes.
Wow.
So we apply for funding. There are definitely public sources and private sources of funding. And then there are other things that have to be part of the model. And another department that we have in Enlace, and definitely a big part of what we do, is violence prevention. And that component has to also be built into our work with this young population.
Right.
So we have school-based counselors for the youth. We also
For elementary and high school.
Yes, for elementary and high school. students and their families, of course, have to be involved in mentoring. They have to be aware of what's happening with the young people. So it's been a great a great 8 years of working in collaboration with the school, and we're looking forward to continuing this work. In terms of our work with high schools, we also put a lot of emphasis in post-secondary and career exploration opportunities, so college access.
So well, you made me think of a couple things, and I want to get back to this idea of college access. But as far as violence prevention, that's one of the, I think, negative stereotypes people tend to have of Little Village, Pilsen, and other densely populated and heavily Latino communities. How does that program work exactly? You mentioned counselors, but how else does that, do you like have classes or workshops?
So in terms of violence prevention, we tend to talk about our approach being divided into three strategies. One is prevention, the other one is intervention, and the third one is advocacy and organizing.
Okay.
So in terms of prevention, it's exactly what the word says, right? We're trying to prevent youth that are showing at risk, what we call risk factors, like they're showing, for example, in school behavioral issues. They are not attending school in the way they should be attending. They present other characteristics that are showing that they may have conflict at home and things of that nature. So we try to identify these youth in collaboration with their teachers, with counselors, and with principals and other school administrators. And once they're identified, not only we try to provide individual and group counseling for them, but also try to involve them in these extracurricular activities.
Okay.
Because a lot of the reason why many youth get involved in gangs or affiliated is because of a lack of identity and a lack of opportunities. So we try for them to be involved, to find the things that they're passionate about, to get involved with arts, with
Right.
sports, etc., so that they don't go in that direction.
It's not about marking youth as saying, troublemaker. It's youth, like, what can you give? Who are you? You're helping them discover themselves.
Exactly. That's definitely the route that we want to take. And
How does that lead to, I'm sure that's also connected to your college readiness or helping them get ready for college. How does that work?
yes. So in terms of post-secondary, it's funny because when I first got to Little Village in, like I'm saying, 2005, it doesn't seem as very long, but it was very long ago. People talked about we need to create a college culture in Little Village, and we were all trying to figure out what does that mean, right?
Right.
What are the indicators that we can have that we can use to say things have improved in terms of a college culture?
Right.
So now we have a better idea, and I'm definitely not saying we have everything solved, but we have a better idea. A college culture starts with kids and youth figuring out their passion is, right? They need to know
Right.
what they're passionate about in order to want to pursue something like college or university. So that's what we try to do with them. If they're interested, for example, in the medical field or the arts field, etc., one of the things that we do is we connect them with internships during the summer, especially.
Right.
So we usually have funding sources that are coming from different venues, right? Private and public, etc. But we try to use definitely these as vehicles for providing the program, but to concentrate in the goal. And the goal is for them to explore.
Right.
This is career exploration. So
That's awesome. It's actually, and very rare, right? I mean, it's rare to see that type of support for young people, I think, to help them figure out who they are.
I think it's not as rare as you may
That's
think.
my perception, at least.
I hope it's not as rare. I hope a lot of people are doing this, but we definitely do this And I can definitely remember our youth that have been involved in programs with us since they were in fourth, fifth, sixth grade, and now they're attending college and they're studying what they were taking when they were in fifth grade, right?
Right.
One of our youth just comes to mind, Johnny Trevino. When he was a fifth grader, he was always involved in the art programs, and now that's what he's studying. He's about to graduate. And
That's awesome.
his internships were with the National Museum of Art and things of that nature, because that was his interest.
Wow.
And I can definitely talk about other examples of that, but that's I think what we would like, right? There's definitely, there, like I was saying, indicators that talk about
Right.
things improving, such as graduation rates and college enrollment and that kind of thing. But there's also something that it's hard to measure, that our youth have they have acquired, I think, throughout the years.
Yeah, the intangible passion or love or self-reflection, saying, this is who I am, this is what I want to do with my life. It's hard to measure that. I guess that, right? Is that part of what you're referring to?
For sure, yeah. People call them soft skills, right? I was attending a meeting the other night, and the person was speaking. He said, they're not soft. They're actually the most important skills you can develop, and
Right.
this is true, right? The youth, they learn how to relate to caring adults. So sometimes when they're in the process of, for example, applying to college, then they can tell you, Katia, can you help me fill out this application? Can you help me fill out FAFSA? Hey, for example, Simone or Fanny or one of our staff members, can you just take me to that college for a for a visit?
That's awesome.
Many of them, their parents, they haven't gone to college,
Right.
and they're the first one in their families to do this. So they need this kind of support. And I think what they have figured out throughout the years is that they have, like that saying goes, right? They have a village that is working with them to.
It takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, exactly, and the village is right there.
And it's called Little Village.
That's right.
So we've focused primarily on education and especially of youth. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. But let's talk about some of the other community development and quality of life programs that you're involved, that Enlace is working through in Little Village.
One of the very important pieces of or the features that Enlace likes to be involved in is community planning. We believe that the things that happen in our community, that all of us, everybody in the community, they have a right to be involved, and that
They have a voice.
They have a voice, yes, and that we all, as a community, as a collaborative, we hold people accountable. We hold city agencies or private investors or anybody that wants to come, that they are accountable to the community. So right now, for example, we are involved in several community planning initiatives. And some of them started as the result of the quality of life that you were referring to. So we had a Little Village Quality of Life, which is a strategic plan for the community that was created in 2003. So by now, many of those strategies or initiatives were already kind of obsolete, were not relevant. So we decided to engage the community in a new opportunity so that they can say, these are the things that are our priorities right now. So that process lasted 6 months. It actually started in January of this year and culminated in June with the presentation of the plan. The plan involved 650 community residents,
Wow.
80 organizations, and we did town hall style meetings. We had interviews, we had focus groups, etc. It was a very, very participatory approach to community planning, and the community decided in 8 strategies.
Sounds like Brazil or something.
Actually, yes, it does. South America was
Right.
involved in that type of participatory processes.
Yeah, right. They do that. That was born in Brazil, right? That
It was
right. That process.
participatory budget, particularly,
Right, right.
yes. I was actually participating in some of these processes when I was in Peru.
Wow.
So
So you brought a lot of that experience with you.
a little bit, I would say.
And how did the community feel about being so involved in their in the development of where they live?
I really think that community, we've had an enormous and amazing response. Like I'm telling you, 650 people. We had principals, teachers, parents, students, health practitioners, everybody involved in this process, which to me is really great. And it just talks about how involved people in Little Village really want to be in their own development. And the fact that, like we were saying before, it's such a vibrant community with so much potential and so much ganas, I guess, to participate, to be.
And jóvenes, right? Right.
Many youth. So kind of like born out of that process, we're also like continuing right now with this very involved planning. And there are different initiatives that we're working on in terms of planning. One of those is green space for schools. Another one of those initiatives is the participatory budget that you were talking about. So basically our alderman is the first Latino alderman that said, okay, here's the menu money. We're going to plan how to spend it. I'm not going to decide by myself. The community is going to say that.
Wow, that is so awesome, and that would be a topic for another show. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for sharing the exciting work that you're doing in Little Village.
Thank you for having me.
Perspectivas Latinas is a community service of CAN TV. If your nonprofit organization would like to work with CAN TV, call 312-738-1400 and ask for nonprofit services. Tune into Perspectivas Latinas for local issues and concerns every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on CAN TV 21. I'm Juan Carlos Hernandez. Thank you for joining us.